All right, good afternoon, everybody. My name, for those of you that don't know me, my name is Jeff Nowitzki. For the UFC, I oversee our anti-doping program, independently administered by USADA. It's widely recognized as the most comprehensive in professional sport. A few years ago, we looked at the program and said it's unfortunate that the news that comes out of anti-doping is generally bad news. It's usually when an athlete tests positive. But if you look at our program, we're approaching now 30,000 individual tests, and with a positive percentage rate of less than 1%. And we said to ourselves, that's the news that we need to get out there, the positive news, because it's overwhelmingly positive. So we started giving recognition and presentations like this for athletes that reached milestones, 25 clean tests, 50 clean tests, they get a jacket. And today with Dustin Poirier, 75 clean tests. I was talking to Dustin earlier. He has now overtaken, of active UFC fighters, the most successful tests. Since Amanda Nunes retired, she was ahead of him, and now it's Dustin Poirier in the lead. And I usually tell a quick story to personalize these presentations, and Dustin's is the best story that I have, bar none. I told this story when he got his 50 jacket, but it was in the locker room, kind of in front of family and friends. But Dustin had just defeated Conor McGregor. It was the night of the fight. I was home in Las Vegas, and my phone rings, and I look, and it's Dustin Poirier, and I say, it's 4 hours after he just beat Conor. Must be a butt dial or something. So pick it up, and hey, Dustin, what's up? He goes, hey, Jeff. He goes, USADA collected a sample from me today at the fight, and I forgot to declare one supplement I was using. Completely benign supplement. I think it was tested and certified. But that's the level of attention and care and detail that this guy, makes to be successful under this program. The biggest win of his career, one of the biggest wins in the history of the UFC, and he's calling me 4 hours later to report one single supplement that he forgot to declare. So Dustin, man, we appreciate it so much. That's why you're at the top of the list, that attention to detail, and I'm positive it has a lot to do with why you're successful as an athlete overall, that attention to detail. It's much appreciated within the UFC. So your 75 pin here. Put on your jacket. Beautiful. There you go, my man. Appreciate it. And thank you for everything you do, buddy. Appreciate you guys. All right.
Dustin, there was a lot to talk about with the fight, but I did want to ask you just about this moment. I mean, what does that mean to you to be not only am I at the top of the sport, but I'm also, at the top of the list of clean tests?
I mean, it's cool to have. It's cool to set an example, I guess. I've never done any performance-enhancing drugs in my life, and lucky for me, like coming up earlier in the gyms I was in as a young fighter, it wasn't around me, so I never got introduced to that type of stuff. So it was never a part of my, surroundings, and it's all good. It's cool to be recognized for not doing steroids.
All right. Now let's talk about the fight. I mean, I don't even know how many years. It's been nothing but big fight after big fight after big fight. Is there still, I know you said you do this because you get that excitement, you get that fear, but like fight week, is there still that nerves? Is there still that excitement? Or at this point, this is just who I am and what I do?
A little bit of both. This is who I am and what I do. I mean, walking this walk, coming in here, talking to you guys, checking in with the UFC. This might be like the 30th time I've done it. And it's just part of the process. It feels normal to me, but what never goes away is those feelings and that anxiety all week, prepping, thinking about the fight when I lay down at night. That never goes away. That's always there, man.
Yeah. I've heard you say a few times lately, like, I don't have to fight anymore. Like, my family's good. Knowing that, has the family ever said, hey, Dustin, you don't have to fight anymore. Could you please not?
Yeah, my mom told me that after the second fight in Abu Dhabi. She was like, I think it's enough, you've done it enough. But, this is what I do, man.
Yeah, no doubt. Talk about prepping for this fight. Like I said, it's been nothing but big fights, right? But a fight that is going to be a battle, that you had before and was a battle, right? I mean, is there a different mentality or a different approach knowing, like, I'm probably not going to get out of there and get out in 5 minutes. It's going to be a battle.
Yeah, when they called me, because we were talking about doing this fight, a few months ago when they first called me and started talking about Justin potentially being the opponent, those butterflies, that anxiety, that hit me right away, and I was like, we got to do this. This is the one. And it was 5 years ago I beat him. He's done great things. I've done great things. And we were just on a collision course, it seemed, to do it again. Number 2, number 3, number 1's fighting the champ. So it just makes sense, I think, in the division as well.
Would be a huge fight without a title on it regardless because of who you guys are. But the BMF title, like,
That was thrown on kind of last minute. Like when we first started talking about the fight, that wasn't brought up.
Yeah. Is that fun at all? I mean, did you care? Or what does that mean to you?
It's cool. You know, it's cool. It's a legacy fight. That's what my wife told me. She said this about legacy. Put this BMF belt up on my mantle. You know, when I'm gone from the sport, I can talk back about, you know, the second BMF and UFC history fight. And it's just, it's history, it's legacy, it's fun. But even to have your name in the hat to be considered for a fight like this is a special thing, you know?
Last thing for me, I mean, I think at this point in your career, it doesn't really matter what stakes you're fighting for. People are going to want to tune in and watch you fight, right? But that in mind, I mean, that title, like, is that still what's top of mind? And are you viewing this as, hey, number 1 contender fight, I fight the winner of October?
Yeah, I haven't been told directly that the winner is fighting for the belt, but I assume that. But, you know, I say this every time I sit up here in front of you guys. I don't want to look forward that far because Saturday needs to happen. And, you know, it's a crazy thing we do, but the plan is to get my hand raised, and then when the smoke clears, we'll assess the next fight and where the division's at and what happens in Abu Dhabi and all. You know, it's just so much things that need to happen and that are going on that is just noise until Saturday happens. So I'm fully focused on 25 minutes with Justin, and it's wartime, man.
Dustin, when you left the arena last time after fighting Justin, did part of you think, I'm going to have to fight this guy again? That fight was too good and the fans are going to want to see it.
No, it didn't. I actually sat next to Justin at one of the pay-per-views in Vegas, and we were, you know, talking, chopping it up, and I told him, I was like, dude, I don't want to do that again. You know, I told him that. I was like, I don't want to do that again, and here we are about to throw hands. But I honestly, throughout the 5 years since the first fight, I didn't see it coming.
You mentioned those pre-fight anxieties, right, and fight week. That's always going to be there. But knowing what you went through the last time and knowing what's waiting for you on Saturday, is it almost worse? Is this fight week like, oh, God, okay, Saturday is really going to be a rough one? Or are you just, hey, it's a fight, I get in there, I do what I do?
Both. Like, I trust myself to make a way through the roughness, but it's going to get rough, you know. Like I said before, adversity will present itself in this fight, but I trust myself to get off the stool, keep myself safe, find the openings, you know, pick my shots. I've matured a lot in this sport, and I think you're going to see it Saturday.
Mm-hmm. This time we're a bit higher up in the air. Did you do anything special to prepare for the elevation?
I had a company called Higher Peak Altitude Training come in and send me a tent and a machine that you can sleep at altitude. So I did the last 2 weeks at 5,000 feet in South Florida, and came out here Friday morning. And my house I'm at here is an Airbnb. It's like 5,100 feet, so I'm about 1,000 feet or so above where we're going to fight. And I hope that's enough, but I don't get tired, man. 5,000 feet ain't enough.
Thank you.
Justin, is there, I asked Dustin this too, because he's only had one rematch in his entire career. You've had a few and you've won them all. Is there any difference in preparation, not specifically for Justin, but just rematches in general leading into a fight compared to when you're fighting a fresh face?
It depends how long, well, this is my opinion, obviously, but it depends how long they are between each other. Me and Justin fought 5 years ago, so this is I'm win about this like it's a new fight. You know, I'm not going to break down the footage and dwell on that too much because we both changed so much and had our successes and our losses and, you know, changed things and just got better in the sport. We didn't waste 5 years. We're both better fighters now. Other fights, like the Eddie Alvarez fight, was a lot closer together. So we did go back and watch a lot of things he did. The Max Holloway fight was a long time between as well. So I try to look at it as a brand new fight.
Earlier today, Justin was on, I think it was like part of the interruption or something like that, and he said that he knows you're ready and he's ready, but I think his words were, I think our families are terrified for this rematch. So when you told your family, like, I'm going to have to go rematch Justin Gaethje, what did they say?
Well, my wife kind of knew, you know, like whenever I told her, she kind of knew, but it's a unsaid agreement. It's an unwritten agreement, you know. She knows when I go into that zone, and she knows what this is, and especially a fight like this. Everyone knows, not even family. People at home who follow the sport knows what this is, and I want to go there. I think that's where I do my best work, and the fact that, like, the fans and Justin, he doesn't, like, go out of his way to portray that, but he's kind of got that aura about him now as the chaos and the most violent and all that, but I really am that, and he knows that. So let's go there.
We asked Justin this too because Jorge is probably going to wrap the belt around the winner, and he said to him that makes it a little more sweeter knowing that he's taking it away from ATT. Does it make it a little more sweeter knowing that you're going to be fighting to keep it at ATT?
Yeah, you know, it's great to keep that title at American Top Team. We're going to put it next to the one George brought to the gym and keep the tradition alive. You know, Masvidal's a buddy of mine, and proud of that guy. The resurgence he had in his career, you know, from backyards to being a superstar, one of the biggest names in the sport. You know, he showed the rest of us that if you just stay the path, keep hustling, keep grinding, good things will happen.
Dustin, right here. When Justin was in here earlier, he said he thinks his best chance of winning this fight is to be more technical than the last one and more technical than you. We know how good your boxing is and how much you embrace the technique. Is that a mistake from him on that mindset? Do you think he needs to turn this into more of a brawl to give himself a chance to win?
Yeah, I do. You know, if he wants to technically kickbox with me and grapple with me, I think his best chances are to catch me being crazy and landing a shot. If he tries to take his time and be methodical, I'm going to show you levels for sure.
And who do you think wins the fight between Islam and Charles when they rematch later this year?
Man, I know I'm 100% sure that Charles didn't show his true potential in that fight. You know, I know from experience that the guy is good. I thought he really underperformed, and we've seen him do that in the past, and everyone, including myself, thought he was past that, and he kind of broke through that, not to say quitting, but broke through those times he stumbles in there, and he really found his groove. But in that fight, he kind of looked like the old Charles. It looked like he didn't want to be in there. If he has his mental together, I think he'll give Islam as big of a test as anybody ever has.
Is there a matchup out of those two that you would relish having more? You know, Islam obviously the guy who's had a long winning streak here, but then the chance at revenge against Charles.
Even guys who beat me, man, I've never really, even like Conor or anybody when there's bad blood and stuff, I never really like sit back and think about the revenge. So whoever.
Dustin over here. You are one of the longest tenured title contenders still in the picture, and I'm just curious, what's kind of been the secret to your longevity in your eyes after all these years?
Remaining a student, like not just showing up to do martial arts when a fight camp gets announced or when a fight gets announced, being in the gym back home with young fighters, helping them fight, get ready for fights on the local scene, being part of jiu-jitsu tournaments, doing jiu-jitsu, just being in gyms, being a student of martial arts. And even when I'm not in the gym, I'm watching fights, breaking stuff down. I just love combat sports, and maybe that's part of it.
Yeah. You got the chance to be a desk analyst for UFC 287. What was that like? Was there anything that kind of surprised you about being, behind the desk rather than in front of the people?
It was a different experience for sure. Like, I was nervous on the way there. I was like, I don't want to blow this. This is live TV. There are no redos or edits. But when I showed up to the arena and then it's all the same people I've been dealing with my whole career in the UFC, behind the scenes, I felt right at home.
Yeah. When it comes to these fights, you've talked a lot about leading up to this fight, putting on the war hat and really getting into these barn burner type fights. Did you always love those, or did you have to kind of gain that attribute after years and years of just insane fights over the course of your career?
I mean, like when I first started fighting, definitely didn't look forward to being in wars. I didn't think about it, but I just embraced it over the years. So many crazy fights, and find out when you're in that kind of war, the other person's going through it too, and I just feel like I can suffer more than these guys.
Hey, Dustin. There's this crazy stat, and I was just wondering if you had seen it. Both you and Justin, since your last fight, have a 6-2 record, 4 finishes, two decisions, a win over Chandler. Only losses are to Khabib and Charles. Like, when you hear that, like, is it just kind of like destiny that this fight was supposed to happen?
Yeah, that's what I said. It's a collision course. When looking back at the stats, I think we even have the same amount of letters in our name. It's crazy. It's the battle of the Austins, man.
And finally, your old pal Nate Diaz fights next weekend against Jake Paul. How do you think he does?
Man, dude, Nate does have good boxing, but it's unorthodox, and it works well for MMA, small gloves, pity pat punches, and that range. But with boxing gloves, things are different. Timing's different. Range is a little bit different. And Jake is a big, athletic young kid. If I had to put money on it, I would put it on Jake.
Do you think the size is going to be a big factor? And the narrative is, right, if Jake doesn't knock Nate out, he's going to gas and Nate's going to take over. Like, do you kind of think that narrative's correct?
For sure. I mean, that could happen. It definitely could happen. I've been around both guys. Jake is a lot bigger than Nate, a lot more explosive, has the money and the amenities and to put the best people around him and really lock himself away and work on the art. He hasn't been doing it for that long, but all it takes is one punch from a guy like that, that size.
Awesome. Thanks, man.
Dustin, so I know athletes talk about like training and coming to Utah and elevation, but what about like the atmosphere? Have you heard from any of the athletes that have been here already from last year about what to expect coming to Utah, or anything that you were surprised to when you got here?
No, I didn't talk to anybody who fought on the previous card, but I just came out. It feels normal, on Sunday I ran 5 miles at the park here. We've got some mountain trails behind the house we're at. Walked those a few times. I don't really, did a few workouts so far. I don't really feel a whole lot different.
Dustin, back here. You get back to the community quite a bit, and just recently with young boy that survived cancer and everything. What does it mean to have an impact?
His name's Alden.
Alden, thank you. Yeah. What does it mean for you to have an impact on kids like that and be able to, continue to put out positive energy like that?
It's important for me, man. Just realizing the platform I have, that people are listening, and for this particular one, he was a fan, so that was real cool. I had sent him a video like a year and a half, 2 years ago when he first went in for chemo, and then it came back around. Make-A-Wish granted his wish, and he came out to the gym, so that's really cool. And I'm just thankful that I'm in a spot where I can do that, and I recognize I'm in a spot that I can do that because we're all fighting for something, and why not? Sometimes what I go out there and fight for is more than silver. It's worth more than silver and gold. It's about emotions. It's about drive. It's about a lot of things other than just a fist fight.
Something you looking to continue to do once you're done?
Yeah, for sure. My foundation isn't going anywhere. We're going to continue to set goals, accomplish those goals. And, as soon as I get out of the cage, fly back to Louisiana Wednesday, I'll be handing out backpacks and school supplies and food to families in need in Lafayette, Louisiana. So it doesn't stop, The good fight doesn't stop.
Dustin, just to go back to Nate, I know you wanted to fight him for a long time, and he's saying that this is pretty much like a one and done for him outside the UFC. He wants to be back. Would you still be interested in doing that, or have you moved past it?
Dude, like I always say, I don't look too far ahead and book myself in fights that aren't even realistic or a possibility until other things happen. But if he comes back, I'll beat him up.
And we know your record in the rematch is everything. What's the record in the ping pong this week?
Man, I've been getting whipped. My buddy's down a few $1,000. He's going to have to take a loan out when he gets home.
Get the L's out of the way now.
Yeah. And you can get it too if you come up to the house.
One final one for me. Brent Allen's been asking the UFC for a UFC Fight Night Louisiana. He says you're the only other fighter that could headline ahead of him. Do you want to fight in Louisiana before you're done?
I fought whenever last time UFC went to New Orleans. I fought at the Smoothie King Center. I'd love to fight there. I fought in the Superdome when I was an amateur fighter back in like 2008, maybe 2007. Everybody knows who Rich Clementi is, right?
Oh, yeah.
He used to have a promotion, and they did a big car show in the Superdome, and he partnered his promotion up with the car show, and we set up a cage in the middle of the Superdome and all the cars, and I fought there, and that was real cool. But anytime fighting on home turf in Louisiana, I'm in. I'd love to go back to New Orleans.
Just want to ask you one quick follow-up. Like, you're one of the biggest stars in the sport right now. You're fighting on the biggest stages, right? But I wonder, it just struck me, like, kid from Lafayette, Fightville, to sleeping in an altitude tent that some tech company is sending to you. Are there like small moments like that where you just step back and go like, man, I never saw any of this happening?
Yeah, when I do look back, like on how since the beginning here, borrowing my mom's car to go to the gym and get beat up, waiting for my wife to get off of work so I can use her car, riding a bicycle to the gym. Man, that's what hard work does, though. It pays off.
What was it like fighting in the Superdome?
It was awesome, man. It was awesome. It wasn't like a crazy big crowd because it was just a car show. Most people were on the floor, but it was cool because we got to warm up in like the football locker rooms, and it's such a big place to get from the locker room to the cage. We had to jump on a golf cart.
What was that walk like to the cage? Because that's
I was just telling you, we took a golf cart. It was so far. Thank you, guys.